This is the PLC that we're using for the compressor edition. We have received direction that we are supposed to be trying to avoid underground as much as possible and not run along the fence. And a suggestion we received was to use these overhead poles. We did a field walk here with Jorge and Mario and Jaime, and it seems like it's a pretty complicated design, so I just wanted to walk through some of the complexities here. We were talking about perhaps coming up these poles across over here, over to here. I believe we have a rule 25 feet away from tanks or any equipment for any overhead. These lines right here, for instance, are likely not in compliance, but we're not touching those, so we're leaving those alone. But the 25-foot rule, if we have to follow it for overhead, means that we're going to have to come up over here, over to here, across over to here. There's been some talk that some of these poles are out of compliance. I'm not quite sure what that compliance is. We were discussing some, and we think there might be like some nameplates that need to be present on these poles. And I'm thinking like this tag here might be what they're talking about. So that pole appears to be okay. We can add a riser here, and that's like 30 feet up or something. It's pretty high. There's enough room to have an underspan there, I'm pretty sure. This pole, let's see. This pole also has a tag. This says 4-35. I wonder if that means class 4. If it's class 4 and that's less than class 2, then we can't use this pole. It's no longer in spec. I think that's the gist of the concern. But somehow we're going to have to get over there to around this tank to the new vessel. And currently following these existing poles seems to be the best way. So I'm going to walk over here. This span also appears to be 30 or so feet above the ground. This pole doesn't appear to have any tags on it, which means it might be out of compliance, because I think it would need to have a tag. I'm not seeing any tags here. Which could be a problem. Hey, that's not necessarily what I'm out to solve just yet. We're trying to see if this is even a feasible idea. Now, if we could use those poles and not this one, then we might be able to go around the outside. I don't think we can go inside. Well, maybe we could. Maybe we could go. No, we couldn't, because from there we can't really get too much closer to that tank, and we have an overhead span that's in the way anyway. From over here we have to have some method of getting around this tank over to this vessel and around this existing overhead. It's no real good solution presents itself. It was sort of our opinion here on the ground that the original design might end up being a more practical solution with a few modifications. getting around this is problematic. Can it be done? I'm sure we can find a way. But another possibility might be, okay, we run just like we said along the fence, but not attached to the fence. And if they're concerned about drilling piers, then run on sleepers along the fence. There's no tripping hazard, so, and there's no support on the fence issue anymore. I don't know. We need input from construction and inspections. All right, so we have to have some means of getting over here, from over here, cross over to here, over to here. Now, Mario and I are of the opinion that it might actually end up being easier to cut across over to this side of the vessel, except, well, there's that there's a gate here, but there's already all kinds of obstructions. I don't know. I mean, it almost seems like those pipes are already out of compliance. Well, regardless, we think it might end up being cleaner. We're going to have to cut underground in every case if the 25-foot rule applies. Again, if the 25-foot rule is applicable, then this line is out of compliance because that's closer than 25 feet to the vessel. So we can't use those poles. Right? So anyway, there's a series of challenges here where there's a lot of ambiguous design difficulties, which it seems like we're going to be facing. Now from here on, if we're out here and we're still overhead, it's pretty much, we're free and clear to go where we want. We'd have to come out here or something, probably around this dirt pile, somewhere around here. And then we got to get over there to that flange. The flange is actually going to be piped up over to the vertical support, but it's still right there. And we're thinking we'd run an overhead span from where I'm standing over to that vertical support, like right next to it. We'd have to drill a support right next to it, like touching the concrete pretty much, because cable support rules would require us to support within 3 feet of the end of the cable. So the pole would have to be right there, and then we'd attach the instrument directly to the overhead conductor. So there's not going to be a riser per se. It's going to be a direct attachment from the instrument housing to the overhead. That overhead that's sort of drooping down there is already below the level of the instrument, which is a problem. Another problem we face here with the overhead solution. It's possible we might be able to lift up those wires and run another comm cable underneath those wires. If we do that, let's get on over here. So I'm going to stop here real quick. This pole here, the one on the leftmost here, is apparently, it appears to be out of compliance because there's no tag. If that was our understanding during our meeting. There's no tag on it. It's not a class 2 pole, or something to that effect. So that's a problem. We're gonna have to figure out a way to get around that. Maybe put a pole on the other side of it, have our cables like to this pole here again, that pole right there. So from the original pole right there or something. Yeah, behind that riser on the tank next to the PLC, from there over to here. Except we can't go over here, we have to go around it to a new pole like over here, and then from there back to there. From there we would have to, if we were going to go there, then we'd have to riser from there underground over to the tank, because there's no other way. Maybe we could run another pole in this direction towards the camera to the very edge of the fence and then riser there. But then we got sort of like a zigzag, you know, from here to a new pole, to this pole, to a new pole, like you know, there or something, on this side of the existing conductors, with a riser down to the instruments. So we're kind of like a zigzag across the existing poles. All right, continuing on. So it's really kind of messy. We're trying to do this overhead thing, but we're gonna have to raise up these conductors if we're gonna use these poles, which maybe that's possible, because we got to avoid that pole. If we have a pole here that we riser down to, we're kind of constrained by this pole here. We would have to land on it, which is fine. It's 25 feet away, so it's within compliance of the rules at that point. I don't know about this potential new pole. I'll have to measure it. I'm not seeing a tag here. I'm gonna walk around on the inside of the fence and look at these poles. All right, so I'm inside the fence now, and that's the pole that doesn't have a tag, so I'm assuming is out of compliance. Coming over to here, we've got this pole, and it also appears to not have a tag. I'm not seeing anything, which, if that's what determines compliance, then it's out of compliance. And it's also, it's probably 25 feet out of the way, but the lines aren't. I don't think. I don't know. I'll check to make sure. I'll measure in the office. All right. So anyway, that pole is out of compliance. I'm going to get over to that pole momentarily. While I'm here, what we were talking about was running underground, because I don't see a way to avoid running underground. We can't run above ground within 25 feet of a vessel. So again, this is all hinged on if that rule even applies. We were thinking running underground across over there, getting over to here, stubbing up, attach a conduit to a bollard, come across here to another bollard. This bollard would come up here and act as an attachment to all the various instruments. We might have to have another supplemental support over here or something. I'll leave that to construction to decide if they need another. So now I'm going to get over to that pole. All right, I'm at this other pole now that we would have to interface with. I'm thinking we'd have to interface with, and it doesn't appear like it has any kind of tag either. I don't know if this tag thing is a requirement. Someone just mentioned that these poles are out of compliance or something, that we'd have to replace them. I'm not well versed in the overhead rules. We've never. This is a new, completely new design style. This running overhead control. one alternative is just run along the fence line on sleepers or supports. We heard that there might be some problem with drilling, so run it on sleepers instead. And you're still gonna have to go underground here. There's just no way around it. You're gonna have to cut under the road, under the driveway. We just can't get around it if we're gonna run on sleepers or supports. But you could utilize that fact, leverage the fact that you're going underground anyway, and cut across to the vessel, which was the original design. Since you're going underground anyway, cut across to the vessel, and you know, simplify it in that respect. This pole going along the overhead solution, those conductors are pretty low. This is at like probably 25 feet or so, and these are at that same height, so they'd have to be raised up. Since they're all comm cables, that shouldn't be too much trouble, but they would have to be raised up for our new conductors to be run, and we'd have to be running along these existing poles because this gets in the way otherwise. I think running out here causes us trouble, though we do have another alternative solution. Running out here, you know, we'd run out here, we would just have to cut across here somehow. We've got to get to that instrument right there. We're going to move it up to here to the support, but we still have to get over there. We're going to have a pole, you know, right from the ground, right next to the foundation, right up here, and run from the pole with a slack span directly to the instrument. If we have our new pole right here, up, from there we run a span maybe up high or something. I don't know, maybe we could add a new pole. We'd have to cross the pipe and add a new pole like next to the PLC or something to clear this business. We'd have to clear this somehow. And we're gonna have to drop because we have a hand switch, or at least a couple hand switches, that we're installing one on this pole here, I think. This pole here. And I think we're interfacing with a hand switch in here. If we drop over here, I don't know. There's not really a good solution. I mean, it clears the obstructions, but maybe if we had a pole right here, like right next to the PLC, high enough to cross the pipe, over the VRU line, and then we dropped into here, into the PLC support, and then ran along the PLC support to get to whatever we're interfacing with in here, like a hand switch, I think, and then through here along this existing support structure over here to a new ESD. And if we were doing the sleeper thing, we would just keep coming along with the sleepers right down here. We'd pop up with the sleepers right here onto this support, get to the hand switch here and the hand switch inside, following the same structure, but also going up here to this tray. And this tray, we'd go across, drop down, back to sleepers again, running along. But if we're not doing the sleepers, then we're at a pole like approximately right here. We're here, we cut across. We need to be within 25 feet away from that. So we cut across to, like, I don't know, about the fence line or so. We have another pole. And from there, it's relatively open. There's nothing out there. So we can run whatever poles we want to at that point. Just for the record, let's check and see if these poles are tagged in any way. They don't appear to be. This one's not. This one is. So the antenna pole, it says 5-45, even though it's not really, I don't think we can actually reach that, and I'd be concerned about interference with an antenna. Antenna is a pretty sensitive radio system that's, you know, by design unshielded. It's transmitting. So if we ran any control cables up there, it might be a problem. And I'm concerned that that pole would conflict with the riser, the guy wire here on this 480 line. If we're trying to get over there to these comm poles. If we were to keep doing the sleeper thing, we'd come up here over this tray, down over to sleepers, across. If we have our overhead here, we're pretty open getting over to here at this point. So that's no longer a problem. It would be pretty much the same design no matter what we do over here. Whether we do our sleeper solution or our overhead solution, we're gonna have to drop to the overhead. There's gonna be a pipe support system, which we were planning on running a conduit on. We'll just continue to run the conduit on that in either case. So that section of the design is the same. I've done a little bit of review of this video so far, and there might be an alternative solution to the zigzag design. I'm gonna walk through it real quick. Okay, I'm back over here at the PLC, and for the record, I think that says 5-45. There's this square washer. It's kind of in the way, but I think it says 5-45. This riser here next to the PLC, that lower cable is comm, but the upper cable is 480. So in the event we need to avoid it for some reason, an alternative here, which I've been reviewing this video, and there's a lot of obstacles, a lot of things in the way. But an alternative design here is we add another pole over here, you know, open air, brand new pole over here. We have to cross underneath this 480 line. We cross the street to get around this to another new pole. These new poles, the whole point of these is to get around the fact that a lot of these poles have no tags. This one actually has a tag, so we could say we're going to hit this pole instead. All right, so we hit this pole, or we create a new pole. We can use that pole, or we can use a new pole. I leave that up to construction and inspections. From there though, that pole has no tag, so we build a new pole out here. Okay, so here would be like where I'm standing, would be like where we put a new pole. Since that pole has no tag, we put a new pole out here, and we just ignore all this stuff over here. The proposed solution I'm talking about now bypasses all of this by going around. Around it and then doubling back. So from here we'd build another pole out here or so. I'm gonna walk over there now. Okay, I'm standing where we'd put like another new pole. So where we were at our either new or existing PLC riser, like over here, to either this pole here or a new pole behind it, whichever, because this pole does have a tag on it. But from there, this pole does not have a tag. So from there to a new pole over here to where I'm standing. And that gets us to here. And this 12 kV is pretty high up. We're gonna have to cross it. I'm thinking we cross underneath, relatively low, like we're at like 20 feet on this end, but going upwards, so that on the other side we're at 30 feet. So we're going like this underneath it, so that we end up higher on the other side, but we're still underneath this. We cross this, get over to where I'm saying we put like a new pole next to the PLC, and from there we double back. From there to here, we have to put a pole here because there's our instrument. So from the PLC pole to our new instrument pole here. Then from here, we're gonna run as close as we can get with a brand new pole, as close as we can get to around here, and we're just gonna have to go underground there. But it bypasses a lot of the mess we're facing over here. Gets us to where we need to go. We're still gonna have an underground run here, but in every case, if the 25-foot overhead rule applies, we're gonna have to go underground. As an aside, if the 25-foot rule doesn't apply, we were thinking of running a pole right next to the vessel and having a riser go directly down to the instruments and branch off to the instruments from there. But we think it does apply. So we'd run a pole really close to this one actually. There's no, we can't actually use the pole, but we can put a pole next to it. Those are both comm cables, but we ignore them completely, put a brand new pole right there or so, and then from there we go underground to the vessel. So, to review again, from the PLC you can't see it. There's a pole behind this vessel, either the existing pole or a new pole. Over here to this pole right here, which does have a tag on it, or a new pole right next to it, whichever. The design doesn't, it's all the same to us. Less construction if you use the existing one though. From there to a new pole out here, to a new pole out here, and from here underneath this 12 kV to a new pole next to the PLC, and then from there doubling back, a new pole here next to the instrument, and a new pole here as close as we can get to the vessel. We drop underground here, and from this side we run a new pole out to the compressors, at which point the design is the same whether we do the sleeper method or the pole method.